Hello and welcome to another episode of Nightmare Stories of the Other Side. Joining us today, we have Jessiy Hawthorne, who is a Reiki master, sound healer, paranormal investigator, and researcher. She is a CE5 event leader, musician, and professional model. Welcome, Jessiy, and tell us a little more about yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you.
I've been having pretty much paranormal experiences my whole life, ever since I was a kid. I grew up on an Indian burial ground. I found that out like in high school. Um, I kind of got tormented there because I guess I don't like labels, but I'm like a psychic empath, medium type person. Um, I've always just known stuff or felt stuff throughout my life. And then I turned to like drugs and alcohol to self-medicate because I didn't understand. Now that I've gotten older and I've been doing more research and listening to other people talk about this stuff, it all kind of makes sense now. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's why I was feeling that way, or that's why this happened, or, stuff like that. So I've been figuring all of that out the past few years, and um, I was quiet and I never really talked about this stuff unless like close friends or family or my fiance, um, because I always pretty much was called nuts growing up if I tried to talk about this stuff, and so I didn't really start talking about it until November of 2023. I went to two different like paracons, which I grew up in a tiny town. My graduating class was like 24 people. So I didn't even know that like people did paranormal conventions or like ghost hunts with like famous people. I had no idea that stuff existed. I went with Dave Schrader and Shane Pittman to the Joliet prison in May of 2023, and then Chris Fleming had a Paracon in July of 2023. I'm actually wearing his shirt right now. Um, so that's when I kind of got introduced to like all this stuff that people do this, and a lot of people are interested, a lot of people have experiences. And so I was thinking to myself, oh, I wonder how could I do this? Like I would love to do expos and do conferences. That would be fun. And then like, oh, I wonder how I could do podcast stuff, like talk about this. And within I think 2 weeks of thinking that, I got contacted by two different people. My friend Jay, who he's had several podcasts, so he wanted to interview me. And then my fiance went to school with this guy named Frank, so he had a spot open on his show called Late Night Legends that I was on for a little while. So both those people contacted me the same day. And so
Nice.
that's kind of how I got started with that. And then my friend Larry was looking for vendors for an expo in February 2024. And he's like, "Yeah, you're the only Reiki person that I know or know of. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, I would love to love to vend at a paranormal conference." And then I just kept getting asked to do it. So I did, oh gosh, I think at least seven last year. And then I'm not doing as many this year because I kind of got my name out a little bit last year. Um, I'm trying to think. My first one for this year is May 9th, which is up in Wisconsin. I do quite a few up that way. Um, and then since I'm from like I live in the Schaumburg, Illinois area, there's one in Countryside, Illinois that I'm going to be doing in June. I'm going to be speaking at my first one in July 18th and 19th up in Wisconsin, the Paranormal Rockdown, which I think you're going to be at, right?
Yep.
Yep.
We'll all, well, not all of us will be there, but a good chunk of our team will be there. And I'll be there primarily doing photography all weekend.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because that's how you and I started talking.
Yep. So actually, on the night of the 18th, I'm going to be co-leading the investigations with Larry Eisler.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So he's actually going to be joining us on a podcast in a couple weeks. It'll be nice to, have a podcast with him ahead of
Hmm.
working with him because I've never met him before.
Oh yeah, he's fun. You can he's pretty chill, like down to earth guy. We actually went out for sushi not too long ago. Um, Let me fix my camera a little bit. So yeah, no, he's fun to be around. I enjoy being around him. He's a goofball.
That's
But
good.
thanks to him, I that's how I kind of got introduced to all this stuff and I'm able to do the expos and everything.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that weekend. And I guess like where we have our vendor booth where Chad will be at, and then can't remember who else from our team is going there, but it's like I guess it's in the prime spot. It's gonna be in the row with like Dave Schrader and all the big names.
Okay,
And
cool.
kind of and right next to the stage. So
Okay. I was actually right in front of the stage when I vended at Broadhead Manor last year. It was in July. It was for Christina Bloom's. I think she did the Moonbow Expo or something like that. Sam Baltrusis was there. It was fun. So I was like literally right in front of the stage. Not too many speakers. Like this is gonna be completely different, the Paranormal Rockdown, which the first one he did, he asked if my band, when I was in a band, Extraction Point, I was the bassist. He was like, "Hey, would your band want to play at Edinburgh Manor for Paranormal Rockdown? It's like a paranormal convention and with metal and stuff." I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be awesome." And then I was supposed to lead a CE5 that same day, so I was like, oh man, I can't do it. So I was like, double booking myself. I can't be doing that right now.
right, I've had that problem a few times here with like setting up podcasts. Like, oh crap, I already got one at this time. Can we do it a little earlier or change the dates?
Yeah. I gotta keep like a little notebook because I'm old school. I have an actual planner instead of using my phone because I need to write it down because then it stays up in the head a little bit better.
Yep, I have it.
Yeah, me
I have
too.
it written down. I have it on a calendar, and sometimes they don't mesh, and you miss something.
Hmm. So I know we're gonna be doing some stuff over the summer, which is gonna be fun. Um I don't know if you've listened to any of my other interviews or anything, or if you have any questions.
I actually have not.
Okay.
No,
So, kind of going into the paranormal field for like investigations, how many do you think you've done over the years?
Ooh, I did it a lot more when I was young because I was like uh trying to figure out what was going on my property and pretty much I never did like a formal investigation on the property that I grew up on, which kind of sucks, but I'll talk about the series of events like the synchronicities. It's really crazy in a bit here. Um God, I don't know. Professional investigations, at least a dozen. Before that, because like I said, I started realizing like, oh, a lot of people do this nowadays. When I was younger, it was just like, ooh, cemetery, you know?
Mhm.
Which we did get some cool footage and stuff. Or we went to, it's called Diversitech. It's in well, it's not called that anymore. It was in Manteno, Illinois, which was like 20 minutes from where I grew up. It was a insane asylum.
mm,
And it was abandoned, and a lot of people, that's what we would do for fun growing up in the country is go to weird places like that because there wasn't anything to do. Oh, just for reference, language on your show. Should I watch what I say?
Nope, you're good. And we had
Okay.
one guest a week or so ago that used a little bit of language. She hears it all, so
Okay. Because there's times where I start talking about stuff and then it just kind of comes out. I'm like, oopsie.
no, it's all good.
Um, so yeah, I've done quite a few investigations, professionally, not as many as I would like. That's why I'm trying to do a little bit more now. I'm trying to think. So the property that I grew up on, it got foreclosed on in 2012. And so my mom ended up moving about 5 miles away from it. And I never really went back. We kind of drove past it like three years ago, I think, just to see what it looked like. And it's about 1.60 something acres of just straight woods, and then across the street is a golf course. Um, and growing up, like my mom tells me a lot of this stuff. I mean, I have sporadic memories because I witnessed my dad dying when I was 10. So that kind of messed my head up a little bit when it
Yeah.
comes to trauma stuff. And one of the first memories that I have is like I always didn't like going outside by myself, especially at night. I would not go outside at nighttime when I was a kid. Never really understood why until I got older and was like, "Oh, I'm feeling stuff that's around here." Um, One of my first experiences was I think when I was 5. So the way our house was, like the house that we had the house, and then there was like this one big fenced in yard, and then there was another yard that wasn't fenced in that was more connected to the woods. And we had like a sky fort that my dad built and like a pool and stuff. But when I was and there was a creek that went along in the back with like a bunch of shrubbery and bushes. I remember seeing like I didn't know what it was back then, but now it's like, oh, it was a gray. Like I saw the top part of its head and the eyes. And like it moved to the left, it moved to the right, and
Hmm.
then I think I freaked out and ran back to the house. I think that's what happened. I want to be regressed one day to see if that's actually what happened. But that memory kind of resurfaced when I started getting into CE5, which is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is like human initiated contact. So I host those events. I try to do it once a month in the warmer months because we're outside in the middle of nowhere. Um, so that's like one of the first memories I have. My mom said that I slept with her until I was 13 years old. I wouldn't sleep in my room by myself. When I was young, I think I was like 6, 5 or 6. My mom adopted, so we're both adopted, me and my younger brother. My younger brother's 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
So we shared like a bedroom and then we had our playroom. And in the bedroom, he had his crib and I was in like, a small twin mattress. My mom would find me sleeping in the crib with him. And I vaguely remember a couple instances where I would wake up and I would see like 8 to 8 foot tall black figures with red eyes in the corner of the room.
Hmm.
And the house that I grew up in was a schoolhouse for a little while as well. And then they added on to it like the windows weren't like normal windows. They were up high. I think my mom called them cottage windows. So the windows weren't like waist up. It was like above your head. And I would see stuff peering in those windows, like black figures with red eyes a lot of the time too. So I remember like waking up seeing them inside or peering in the window and I would go in my brother's crib because I was scared. And then
I'm
after
sure.
some time I started going in my mom and dad's room and sleeping with them. Um, a lot of stuff kind of ramped up in my teenage years. When my dad passed when I was 10, I think I shut down because I don't remember having that many experiences until I was like 14. I found out he passed in the driveway and not in the hospital. So, me being a dummy, I decided to get a pendulum board and went in the driveway and thought I was talking to my dad. And I was not talking to my dad. Because that's when started getting like violent and amped up. And then I think had an attachment. I'm finding that out now. I didn't know that back then, but I was like really, really violent and hated everything and hated everybody. Like if somebody that I cared about like said they were gonna leave me, I would like threaten them like with a knife and shit. Like
Hmm.
Uh,
yeah, it
Interesting.
was bad. Um So after I turned 14, or when I was 14 and I did the pendulum board thing, that's when stuff started moving in the house too. I had necklaces ripped off of me.
hmm,
Um, there was an instance when I was younger where my friend and I were playing with American Girl dolls, and we went to have like lunch in the kitchen, and when we came back they were on the bed when they were quote in school. We made them in
Hmm.
school with their desks and stuff, and there were little pencil marks on the white closet that were about as tall as the dolls. Don't know what happened or how that happened, but that freaked me and my friend out. Needless to say, I'm terrified of dolls.
uh,
Another thing that I talk about a lot too is whenever I would have friends over, we'd be smoking or drinking on the porch, driveway and stuff, and rocks would always get thrown at us. And we had a propane tank. So you would hear the rocks get thrown and hit the propane tank or hit the driveway. And I had lots of skeptic friends that would come over and they're like, what the hell? Who's out there? And they'd go out there with like a flashlight and couldn't find anybody. We would try to figure it out first. Like, oh, maybe it's some stupid kids that decided to walk through the acre and a half woods for some random reason and throw
Hmm.
rocks at us, because that makes sense.
You're right.
But we never found anybody. So that, and nowadays, like the research and stuff I hear in that Sasquatch throws rocks at people. So
Yep.
I'm like, huh, I wonder if there was a Sasquatch. I mean, the shadow figures with the red eyes, I mean, it could possibly have been that.
Right.
When I was younger, I was like, oh, it's a demon. Which no, that's not it. I think it was if anything, like a watcher of the land, because it was Native American land, and then found out that it's pretty much a burial ground, because the it's at the top of this big hill, and Illinois is boring. It's flat unless you're like really south or really west.
Yeah. Or like, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Illinois had mountains.
Right?
Who knew?
So it's like to get to the house, you had to go up this really, really big hill that we we called Heart Attack Hill when I was a kid because we would go sled down it.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
So it was at the top of this hill and everything, and then whenever I was outside, especially at nighttime, could feel like there's 100 people around you just staring at you. It's like the most uncomfortable feeling. Um, I worked at the golf course across the street when I was like 14 and you're washing dishes and stuff. And I would have to ride my bike back home, which it wasn't far. And it's a good, they didn't have bicycle lights. You just had to know where the road was.
Hmm.
And I would be riding home and I would feel like I was getting sucked up in this like blackness. And like as soon as I hit the driveway, I threw my bike and I ran in the house. Um, my mom actually had the property blessed by a priest because she's like, oh, maybe this will make her feel a little bit better. And things did calm down for like 2 weeks or so, and then they started back up again. So don't know what it was. I'm trying to think. When a lot of stuff actually amped up after I was dating my first fiance, his name was Bobby. He experienced a lot of the stuff too, which was like, oh, finally, somebody that's experiencing this stuff and believes me and doesn't think I'm nuts.
Right.
So we'd be like in the kitchen having cigarettes or talking, and we would hear a conversation like in the bathroom. It sounded like, muffled, like people
uh,
had their hands over their mouths, and you couldn't make anything out. And a lot of the time it was like a male and a female, and we didn't know where it was coming from. No TVs were on or anything. That happened, I don't even know how many times. Um, TVs would turn on and turn off a lot. Stuff would get moved or thrown off of my dresser. Um, Trying to think. And then there was this one time where we were sitting in the kitchen and we heard like static, like from a TV. And we're like, where's that coming from? We look in the living room, TV's not on. It's like, okay, I go in my room, TV's not on. We're like, where the hell is that coming from? It turns out it was a TV that was in the attic
oh,
that wasn't
geez.
plugged in.
That's crazy.
Um, so that's like another thing that would happen a lot is random stuff like that. One of the clearest memories that I forgot about and he reminded me. So my mom was dating this, well, she's still dating him now, but down this one guy named Phil down the road. He's I pretty much my stepdad, even though they're not married. So him and my mom and I believe it was his brother, they went up to Wisconsin to go fishing for like a week, and he had fish and a cat. So I would go down there to take care of the animals and, keep up the house and, clean and everything while they were gone. So Bobby and I went there one day to, do that. And the toilet was constantly flushing out of nowhere. Doors like would shut. We would hear knocking, and we're just like, okay, what the hell? Let's go home. Screw this. Like, what
Right.
the hell? And
It's got to be the cats.
yeah. And like back then, I mean, I didn't know why. Now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, well, I had an attachment. It followed me there. Okay, that makes sense now, but back then it didn't make sense. And so we got in the car and he was driving and we drove back to my mom's house and it was not even a mile away, so it didn't take long. And Bobby slammed on the brakes and we didn't even pull into the driveway yet. So I looked at him like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, I think I just saw something. And I'm like, okay. And it's the country, so I'm thinking maybe he saw a deer or something. Um, so he creeped up a little bit further past the yard to it's like it was like this wooded section that stopped at a cornfield. So he pulled up there, and then we both looked out the passenger window, and we saw this huge shadow figure that was hunched over, and it turned its head at us, and its eyes were actually like a bluish white color. And he
Ooh.
slammed on the gas, and we didn't go back home for like 2 hours. We just like drove around
Uh,
because we were terrified. We didn't want to go back. So that's one thing that I've talked about a few different times because it's like still so clear in my memory.
Yeah.
yeah.
If you guys can't tell, purple's my favorite color.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a good color.
Uh,
Trying to think. So one another thing that I've been kind of diving into that I've been talking about a little bit more is I think around the area there was possibly satanic necromancy shit going on. Um, so I'm trying to remember how I don't remember how I found the graveyard. So about 2 miles away from the house, there's this path that ends up going to like a really, really old graveyard. Like I think like 1800s were some of the headstones. And Bobby and I went there one day and we noticed the ground was disturbed, um, like dug up. And then we noticed that there were piles of gravestones in the form of a pentagram, and then in the middle there was an altar that was made out of them with like candle wax. So back then we were just like, well, this is freaking weird. Now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, what were they doing over
Right.
there? Um, so we decided to bring some friends with us over there. And one of my friends was 100% skeptic, army, you know, if he's pretty much like if I don't believe in it unless I can shoot it type of attitude. So it was him, um, and another one of our friends. So it was me, Bobby, and our two friends, and we started like walking to the area because we wanted them to see, like, check this shit out. And we kept hearing something like keeping pace with us in the woods. Like we would stop, it would like walk one or two more steps, and then it would stop. And then we'd be walking, and I would hear it like kind of next to us. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's a deer, but you can tell the difference between four and two legs.
Yeah.
It was definitely two legs. And my one buddy that's, in the army, he grabbed his knife and he's like, and his flashlight, he's like, who are you? Come the fuck out, blah, 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 freaking out. And he's like, this is freaking weird. I don't see anybody. They should be right here. And, nobody was there. So we just trekked on, got to the cemetery. And my friend that's a skeptic said he saw this huge black mass that was, he said, darker than the dark. And that was pretty much all he needed to see. So we decided to go back to the car. So hike back to the car, and then within a 2-week time span, all four of us pretty much almost died in automobile accidents.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, one of our friends, I think he was driving his like I think he had a Prelude, and there were just a random pile of pallets in the middle of the road. Makes no sense. So he almost hit those. And my army friend was on his crotch rocket, and there was a couple 2x4s that were across the road. I don't remember if he wrecked his bike or not. But I remember him telling us about that. And then me and my fiance Bobby at the time, we were at one of our friends. We were at his house, and we're like, all right, we're gonna head home because he didn't live too far. And when you live in the country, you know the back roads, what roads how to get home and
yep.
everything. And so it started raining like really, really bad. And we're driving, and we know, I think it was like 3 stop signs, and then the road will T, and then we take a right. Well, we didn't see any of the stop signs, and I had one of those gigantic CD books in my lap where you could fit like
Oh,
300 CDs in
yeah.
it. So I was trying to find music for us and stuff. And I just hear Bobby go, "Oh fuck." And I feel him like speed up, and then we hit the ground, and the CD book hit me in the face. I ended up getting a concussion from it.
Jeez.
So what happened was we don't know. I don't know how it happened, but like we didn't see any stop signs. We know the area, yet the road teed in front of us. He said pretty much he just saw the yellow sign that was,
Yeah.
like the road's gonna tee. And he's like, it was either slam on the brakes and possibly end up in the 10-foot ditch or speed up and try to jump it. So that's when he said, oh, fuck, and sped up really fast. So he ended up jumping over the ditch.
That's some Final Destination stuff right there.
Yeah. And then we called our two friends who, went to the graveyard with us because we were all hanging out at the time. And my one friend, they got me out of the car because I was out of it. Like, and he was trying to make sure I didn't fall asleep. Didn't know if I had like, a head injury or something because he was studying like, medical stuff, EMT stuff. and they drove me to the hospital, and yeah, I ended up getting a concussion from the damn CD book.
Well, CDs are dangerous.
So that's like one
Yeah.
of the more crazy stories that I have about that area. Um, it's just like it, I wish I would have known all this when I lived there because I would have loved to investigate the area more. Like I had like a recorder that I went down to this one creek and because my therapist at the time said, "Oh, well, if you're not sleeping, just record some nature sounds." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, I got more than that. I got EVPs on the damn thing, and I'm like, "Why are there voices?" I didn't understand why. And then it's like, "Oh, maybe they're ghosts or something." What? You know? So then that's when I started doing research on the property and found out how like the land was I mean technically all land was Native American if you think about it.
Hmm.
But it was heavily populated, like we would find arrowheads like on our property all the time. My mom still has some of them. So it was the I think it was Yellowhead, yeah. That was like the tribe name. And the golf course was named after the chief's daughter, and I think the chief's name was Yellowhead. And my mom brought me to his headstone, I guess you could say. It's this gigantic rock, and it's engraved, I think, like, it says Chief Yellowhead and then the year, and I don't remember the year. It's been a very long time since I've been there. Um, so it's definitely Native American ground. Same with like the golf course across the street. It has quite a few hills
Yeah,
on it.
not really hills, but you know.
So the synchronicity stuff that I was talking about, this is interesting. So the property got bought in July of 2012. They haven't finished the house. It's been over a decade. And I actually saw in a Facebook group for the town someone took a picture of the property and you could see the house has no siding on it. And when we were there last, we, looked in the windows and there were no walls built in there. They started building a second story because our house was only one story. It had three bedrooms and one and a half bath. And so they tore all that down, I believe, is what he did. And when my mom and I went there the one day, like we noticed they tore up a lot of the woods and stuff. Like we had privacy shrubs. So if you were by our yard, you couldn't see into our yard or into the house because we had these really pretty shrubs that went along both sides of the property. There was also the one wooded area that was really thick and dense that went to the cornfield. There was a very, very old oak tree that technically was dead, um, that they decided to chop down, and I think whatever's there got very angry at the new owner. My mom at least planted a lot of stuff. We put like a crab apple tree in, and she planted flowers and all types of stuff. We had a garden, so we were technically adding to the land. And then the people that bought the property were taking from the land. And I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't been able to build the house. Because the Facebook post pretty much was like a picture of the not finished house, and it said, "Anybody know what's going on with this property? It's been over a decade and it's an eyesore." And I took a screenshot of it. Thank God I did because I was going to comment, but it was taken down like right away.
Hmm.
Uh,
Um, So this past December, so I've been talking to this one guy named Joel, and he's doing like a documentary series about people that have had, experiences. So I messaged him like, "Hey, I've had all this stuff happen. I would love to be on your show." And we talked on the phone for about an hour, and he's like, I could do a whole film on you. And he asked if I could get access to the property. And I was like, I don't really know. I don't even know who owns it. Well, in December, I got the bug up my ass to try and figure out who owns it. So, look, it was like a county clerk website or something. So I found out who owned the house. The name was really familiar. Sure enough, I am Facebook friends with this person.
uh,
We have never interacted on Facebook whatsoever, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to message him or not. Well, on Christmas, I made like a Christmas post. He commented, Merry Christmas, Jessiy. And I'm like, what? Like, we don't interact, and I'm thinking about messaging you about the house, and you comment that? What? Like, this is really weird. And so I decided, all right, I'm gonna grow a pair and I'm gonna message him because I didn't know if he would believe any of this stuff. So I pretty much was just like, hey, I don't know if you know, but I grew up there. My dad actually passed in the driveway. Um, is it possible that I could, go to the property every now and then? And he pretty much replied that he's spiritual, that he has been thinking about me for the last year and he doesn't know why.
hmm,
And I'm like, well, that's interesting considering I've been talking about the property for the past year.
yeah.
Like,
So his ears were ringing.
pretty much. So
Uh,
I found that really interesting. He's like, yeah, I've been thinking about you a lot the last year and I'm glad that you messaged me. And it's just like, wow, that's really, really crazy. And then I asked him like, oh, have you had any experiences on the property? And he said, yeah, he gets growled at all the time
Hmm.
uh,
because that would happen to us. We would hear growls and we would look and there's nothing there. Um, and he said that, I'm welcome to go to the property whenever I want to. But I was like, so I noticed it's nothing's really on the property. Like the house is in half state, like being built. What's going on? He said that over the since 2012, since they bought it, it's like impossible for them to get like sites, CITES, like I think like building stuff, something like that. Like they can't get the permissions or permits or something.
uh,
Um, so I find it kind of interesting that it's been so difficult for them to build the house, considering all the land that they kind of destroyed on the property. Like,
yeah.
is it paranormal why that's happening?
Right.
So it's just interesting how all that stuff ended up happening. Like, oh, I'm thinking about trying to find the owner of the house. And then, oh wait, I'm Facebook friends with him. Oh, he went to school with me and he remembers me. Oh, he's been thinking about me since I've been talking about the house. Like, what the hell?
Right.
So I still have yet to ask him about doing an investigation there. I don't know if I can go there at nighttime yet. I still have like kind of a fear, and that's not a good way to go to a place, especially with his having history.
Yeah.
Um, one of the last times I went there at night, what, oh God, is it really, wow, it's 10 years ago. Holy crap. Time just flies. It was
Hmm.
Christmas 2015. My fiance now, it was his first Christmas with my family, and I was like, I'm gonna show you, where I grew up since it's not far. So we left my mom's. It was nighttime, and I kind of like drove past the house. I was like, yeah, so there was, a tree here, and there was this here, there was that. And, I'm driving a little bit slowly, and then we go past the one wooded area that meets up to the cornfield, and I saw a gigantic 9, 10 foot tall black shadow figure
Jeez.
staring at us, and I slammed on the gas, and because like my stomach dropped and I got goosebumps, and I slammed on the gas, and Steve's like, "What the hell is going on?" I'm like, "Didn't you see that?" He's like, "No, like what did you see?" And I told him, and he was like, "Oh my God, what the hell?"
Did it have a color to a size that time?
Did what?
Did it have a color to a size that time?
No, it was just a
Oh,
black mass, but you could see like it was a shape of like a I don't want to say a person, but you could tell it had a head and shoulders and stuff.
sure.
So yeah, I didn't see any eyes that time, which was interesting. Um, so that was the last time I was at the property at nighttime, and that was a decade ago. Jesus.
Yeah, I guess if you've seen something like that every time you go there, you'd have a tendency of not wanting to go back regularly.
Yeah. Um, the owner said he would, love to have me and my mom there and to chat and stuff. And I was like, okay, during the day, once it gets warmer out, since there's technically no electricity or anything, like I guess they just got the permission to finish the garage
Uh,
like not long ago. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna go there and chit chat to see if he's had any other experiences because I did send him a couple of my interviews that I've done. So I was like, yeah, so I have history there. You're spiritual, you believe in the paranormal and stuff. Well, here's a couple of the interviews I did of the stuff that happened to me there. Um, and then I did have something follow me and Bobby to his mom's house when we lived there for like a year or two. Didn't think about it at all. Didn't think it was the same thing until I was getting interviewed for a book. My friends Jackie and Bill Kuslos, they have a book out called Bridging the Tragedy. It's about like Mothman and the Point Pleasant I don't want to say massacre, but the Point Pleasant thing that happened. And so they're Bill's a psychologist and Jackie is like me, like a psychic empath. She does Reiki and stuff as well. So they're doing a book, the correlation between trauma and the paranormal. And, my dad died when I was 10. Um, had a lot of abuse throughout my life with relationships and stuff. And then obviously have all these experiences. So they interviewed me and they asked me, did it follow you anywhere? And I was like, oh no, I don't think it did. And then we kept talking, and then all these memories flooded back. I was like, oh my God, it did actually follow me. Like when Bobby and I lived with his mom, his sister would come home from work and she would see a black shadow in her bedroom, which was on the second floor. And she's, what the hell? Like staring out at her. His brother would go downstairs and would see, a black shadow figure in the living room, and he would like go grab a bat or something, like who the fuck broke into the house? And as soon as he would go back down there, it was gone.
uh,
So his family experienced stuff like that. And then I always still had the like gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach, which that's like one of my signs that something's around is like I feel like I got punched in the stomach, kind of like it's uncomfortable. Um, that would always happen, especially if nobody was home and it was dark in the house. So I was like, oh, okay. I guess it did follow me. I didn't realize that it did. Um, back then. Now, since I research this stuff, it's like a lot of stuff is making a little bit more sense now.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions? I've been kind of rambling.
No, you're good. So,
yeah.
I'm gonna jump away from paranormal experiences here a little bit. So, you're joining us at Waverly this June,
Yeah.
and before we get into that, there will be no riding of bicycles down the death chute at all because I don't want anybody getting hurt. I don't want anybody dying, and I don't want to be banned from Waverly.
We want
So,
everybody to go in alive and come out alive.
so no tell Steve no riding of bicycles down the death chute.
I will tell him
That is a definite no, because it would, as fun as that may sound, that's probably not a good idea.
Oh, I know. Believe me, like when he looked at me and was like, "I'm fucking coming with you. Like you're putting me in a suitcase. I'm coming with you." I'm like, "Let me make sure it's okay that you come with, you know." And I asked you guys and everything. Um, and he looked at me and he's like, "You remember what I said I always want to do?" And I looked at him like, "No, no, no." No, like this is professional. You're not going to be a jackass. You're not going to embarrass me. No. He was like, no, I figured, you know, you'd say that. I still want to do that one day. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, babe, they have cameras there. Really?
Yeah, we'll have cameras on him, but only in certain areas they'll have actual cameras.
That is if I don't break the camera.
Yeah, as long as this one doesn't fall down the stairs again and break a camera again.
Oh
Uh,
no. Where did that happen at?
At Waverly, right when we started investigating.
Before we started.
Well, before we
were literally like 5 minutes into it.
Yeah, after we got the tour, we're going down and she missed a step or a broken board.
Our tour guide warned us about that step about 10 times on the tour. So, like, and I still fell.
And the camera goes flying across the room.
Oh no.
And it broke, but you know, whatever. It is what it is.
Oh God.
So if I remember right, you said this is your first trip to Waverly, right?
Yep.
So what are you most excited about or looking to get out of this experience?
Well, it's obviously a very well-known location. I've always wanted to go there. I am curious what I'll pick up, like psychically. Um, I know a little bit about the history, but I am purposefully not doing any research because I want to see what I pick up and if it's validated or not. So like example, um, like a month ago now, a little bit over a month ago, one of my friends from work, him and his brother's dad passed on New Year's Eve. And everybody that pretty much talks to me knows I'm the weirdo at work. That, you know, I do all this stuff. And he asked me if I would come by his house because he thinks his dad's there. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. You know, I got a REM pod and I have like apps on my phone and everything. So sure. I went there pretty much planning to tell him that his dad is not there. You know, he moved on, be a good friend. And as soon as I walked in the house, I got that stomach gut feeling, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I did pick up his dad. I didn't know what his dad looked like. I had no idea that his dad passed in the house. I thought he passed in the hospital. So pretty much everything that my phone said, like I think it's like Spirit Talker, the app,
Yep.
was validated by my friend. Like I walked into this one bedroom and it felt it felt different to me. Like I was thought to myself, he was definitely in this bedroom. Like, did he pass here? Like I thought that, and then my phone goes, I lost my life in here. And I looked at my friend. He goes, yep, he died in this room. I'm like, what?
Wow.
That's insane.
So that was interesting. And I kept having this face pop into my head. I didn't know who it was. So I was just like, oh, you know, I'm kind of busy right now, you know. And my friend's brother posted a picture of their dad a year before he passed, and it was his dad. I was like, oh my God. Okay. And when I was there, I had a feeling that his dad just was confused and didn't really know that he passed because my friend would interact with the activity all the time. Like, Dad, cut it out. Like, would you put that back, please? Or Dad, why'd you knock that over? And he would interact with them. So, considering he passed in the room that he was always in, because I think he had like cancer or something. My gut feeling was that he was confused, especially because my friend was talking to him.
Mhm.
So I told my friend, don't interact anymore. Like, don't don't mention, don't say your dad's name, don't say dad. If something happens, don't interact with it at all. And this is the first step. We'll see if I'm right. And sure enough, all the activity's gone now, about a
Oh,
month later. So I think his dad was confused and didn't really understand what was going on.
yeah. In his eyes, he was going through his everyday life, I'm sure.
Hmm. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to at Waverly, to see what I pick up. And I mean, I am gonna, have protection and stuff because I don't know what's gonna happen there. I've heard so many stories, like, horror stories, crazy stories of like people getting validated when they pick stuff up. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And then obviously it's a historical, like, if you're into paranormal, you know what that is.
Right. Yeah. So like Natalie and I have quite an interesting story from when we were there last July, which we're not going to talk about until we get to Waverly. It's something that we've been, we talk about it to this day,
Yeah,
every
we
day.
talk about it daily.
So, but we'll, talk about that with everybody once we get to Waverly. And then I also did a podcast slash interview last night with the tour guide that's actually going to be there with us the night we're investigating, and got a lot of accounts that she's experienced in the 2-3 years she's been working there.
Hmm.
And that podcast in itself was crazy because, like, the first 20 minutes of the podcast, it was very glitchy. Her face was distorted, and I'm not for sure if it was connection related or whatnot. But then, 20, 25 minutes in, she got kicked out of the podcast and wasn't in there for a good minute, and then got back in, and everything was clear as day. And you could see what she looked like. It's just like, what in the heck just happened? So,
Wow.
and, she was saying that she thought she had an attachment or has one. So that could have probably
Yeah.
played into it. And then, like, when I was texting Chad, he goes, well, since you've been to Waverly, maybe whatever spirits attached to her recognized you from being there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
But
Well,
I can tell you, I want to make your experience at Waverly one to remember, and I can definitely sweeten the pot for you. So earlier you had mentioned, again, I apologize because we've talked about a lot, but that you wanted to regress something from your childhood.
Yeah.
So I, when you were talking, I reached out to a certain individual that's joining us at Poasttown Elementary the night before,
Hmm.
asking him if he'd like to join us at Waverly.
Oh God.
And he actually does regression sessions.
Oh God. I don't know. Doing a regression at Waverly, that would be interesting.
And he agreed that he would join us at Waverly.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Let
he's
me let
been,
me think about that one. I don't know.
but it's like we don't even necessarily have to do it at Waverly. We could do it before.
Yeah.
But he's been to Waverly, and he has a lot of different things that we could play around with during the investigation that will make the investigation that much better.
Cool. I know we were talking about doing like a podcast while we're there and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm curious how that's gonna end up like
Right.
if stuff's gonna get messed up or anything. And like Steve he's a skeptic pretty much, but he had like his first full he literally put it in his words. I just had my first full-blown paranormal experience when we were in Massachusetts. Uh November, end of October, excuse me, early November 2023. That's where we got engaged then. We went to the Hockomock Swamp, which is part of the Bridgewater Triangle, which has like UFOs,
Yep.
cryptids, all types of stuff. And we were walking down this one trail, and oh my God, my stomach was going crazy. And I have learned not to say anything to see if Steve picks stuff up, because I do think he has abilities as well, but he's not gonna admit it.
Yeah.
Because he's very in tune with a lot of stuff. And so I didn't say anything. We're walking. And then I couldn't take it anymore. I think it was like 20 minutes. I was like, okay, babe, I can't, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Like, I have one of my feelings and it is not a good feeling. He's like, seriously? I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, yeah, I've been feeling like we've been watched a little bit, but let's keep going. We're in Massachusetts. We're having a good time. I'm like, okay. And it was like kind of drizzling a little bit. And we just kept walking a little bit more, and then he stops, he looks at me, he's like, "You got that EMF thingy?" My K2 meter. I was like, "Yeah, actually, it's in my backpack." So I got it out, turned it on. Nothing happened until I gave it to him. It like went to red, and he's like, "Is this supposed to do that?" I was like, "No." And I was asking questions, and it wouldn't respond to me. It was responding to him.
Uh,
Like, did you die here? Or, are you I think it was a puck wedgie because they love to fuck with skeptics.
Yep.
Um,
That's what I've heard.
mhm. And so we just kept walking, and he held on to it, and then after a little while he's like, okay, yeah, I can't do this anymore either. Let's go back to the car. So we start walking back, and I don't feel him behind me anymore. Like, it's like, what the hell? So I stop and I turn around, and he's about 50 to 100 feet, um, you know, the opposite direction,
huh.
looking the opposite direction. And then I was like, babe, what the hell? I thought we were leaving. Like, come on. And he jumped and was like, all right, nope, we're going, let's go, let's go, let's go. And he started like kind of running back to me. And then we walked really fast out of there. And I looked at him, I'm like, don't tell me until we get to the car, because I could tell something happened. And we get in the car. I rub my feet in black salt to make sure nothing like follows me. So I'll probably do that at Waverly. And he actually looked at me. He's like, "Give me some of that shit." And I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Skeptic." So
Uh,
he rubbed his feet in the salt, and then we got in the car, and I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" And he said that there were two instances where we were stopped and we were talking, and the K2 meter went to red, and he heard something next to him, and it's fall, so crunchy leaves.
Yep.
He
mhm.
said it sounded like something like shifted next to him. He's like, okay, that's weird. And then he said when he stopped, he had this overwhelming sensation or feeling to go back, which is something puck wedgies are known to do. They lure you into the woods.
Mhm.
So he said that he didn't know why. He just wanted to go back where we were. And he said as he was thinking about walking back, he noticed that the K2 meter jumped to red and stayed there for a few seconds, and he heard something run at him. So that's why he jumped and was like, "Nope, that's it, we're going." So yeah, he said he's like, "I just had my first full-blown paranormal experience."
Nice.
So like, and we tried to debunk it. Because like where the entrance is that we went into, there were like gigantic power lines. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's why the K2 meter was going off, EMF. Turned it on, and underneath the power lines, nothing happened. I'm like, okay, well, if it's not picking it up here, it's not going to pick it up, in the woods where we were.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting. And then I brought him to Tinker Swiss Cottage in December, and he had a couple experiences there too. Like, have you seen those? They're like an EMF bell. Like it's like the silver ring, like you hit it and it dings like to it used to be it's at like laundromats or restaurants, like you ding the bell, you touch
Oh, a
it.
dead bell, kind of like?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
one right behind us.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yep, that'll be with that Waverly.
He literally watched one of those go off twice, and the first time it happened, the look on his face, it was priceless. He was just like, "What?" And he was like trying to compute, like, okay, how would that, how would that happen? And I didn't even know that it was behind us either, so it made me jump. I felt something behind me, and it's pretty much like thinking in my head, like, I know you're behind me, thank you for giving me a sign. Could you do something? And then the bell rang, and I looked up and didn't, because I didn't know it was behind me. I was like, oh shit. And I looked up behind me, and then Steve was staring right at it, like, what the hell? And then he said that before he could even get the D out of his mouth to say, do it again, it did it again. I'm like, yep, that happens.
Awesome.
Yeah, they know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I'm sure he's definitely gonna get something at Waverly because some of the things that Natalie and I have planned for Waverly, we're definitely gonna.
What I have planned for Waverly.
Yeah, well, I got stuff planned too, but we're definitely
Not
gonna.
as good as mine.
We're gonna definitely stir something up.
I have an amazing idea.
And for like our kind of like podcast, if you want to call it that, or interview, kind of have a couple ideas of where I want to do it, and they
Okay.
are in probably the most active areas of the building. So just gotta kind of
isn't
figure
it
out.
like the fourth floor?
Fourth floor has bats.
And the third floor and the second floor. There's bats.
The
A lot of
fourth
bats.
Okay,
floor?
noted.
Bats came at my face, and all I saw was bats. There was like four that came straight at my head.
So one place I'm thinking of is in the lobby to do the podcast.
The lobby is a good place.
Another place would be the room that has the bed where the kids were. That's the only piece of furniture in the entire place.
Oh, wow.
And we're not playing Taylor Swift.
They did not like Taylor Swift.
And then I think it was on the third or fourth floor, there is an area where kind of took like a group picture. I can't remember what it is, but I'd recognize it, but possibly that location because I had some interesting video corruption there. So
I know. I think that was on it was either third or fourth floor. I want to say the fourth floor.
Yeah, I think it was the fourth floor, but so I got a couple ideas of where we could do that. Or we could even, if we really wanted to get crazy, we could do it in the desk shoot too.
Well, the
I don't know if we get great internet service there.
Right. We'll figure it out once we kind of get going.
I do not recommend walking all the way down the body shooting up. Not fun. I did that.
I don't plan on really going down that at all. If Steve wants to go walk down it, I told him to have fun.
I ran down it and walked up it.
Okay.
Not fun. Not fun.
So yeah, Waverly is going to be a definite experience. We get the building from 8 at night to 4 in the morning. So
okay, yeah, that's what you were saying. Definitely gonna bring plenty of energy drinks, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm not a night person anymore. I got a day job.
And as I told you, the bathrooms there are immaculate. They are
Which that's
the best
nice
bathrooms.
to know.
They're so amazing. No, they're actually so amazing.
Yeah. You could. They're so
Noted.
big you could sleep in those bathrooms.
Oh, I would totally sleep.
You could fit like 8 people in them to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're huge.
Yeah, because I've been to, quite a few locations where it's porta potties.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
That's
like,
not what it really
Yeah.
is.
And then, so later on in the year, you're going to be joining the women of our team at a slumber party,
yeah, Boyd House.
the Boyd House.
My one of my friends that does a podcast, he literally just did an episode on the Boyd House. I'm like, oh my God, that's funny. And it's the owner of it, and she also owns the Masonic Lodge.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was like, what? Synchronicity? So I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, that's another place I don't really know much history, and I think I'm gonna keep it that way, just to
Yeah.
see what happens.
And out of all the people that will be there that night, this one's the only one that's going to have been there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no one else that's going to be there that night has been there before.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think you're going to run that show.
no, and the thing is, that's the only location I've ever been scared of every time I've been there.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we've been there twice, and we have been, I wouldn't really say run out of there twice, but we've
More like, okay, I don't know how to word it.
the first time we were there only 2 hours, and the icing on the cake was the town tornado siren going off at 10 o'clock, and
Oh, shit.
she was done.
I was done.
She wasn't feeling good, and as soon as we left, she felt fine.
Mhm.
And the last
Yeah.
time we were there was actually on October 17th or 18th last year, and Chad already had left, and our friends Tina and Marcus were upstairs sleeping. I'm like, why don't, it was 2.5 hour drive home for us. I'm like, I want to sleep a little bit before we leave.
I didn't sleep.
Right.
I was watching TikTok.
So like I'm sleeping downstairs in one of the recliners. She's on the recliner
Watching
across the
TikTok,
room from me.
not sleeping.
And it was about 2 or 2:30 in the morning. And I don't know if I was like half awake or just sensed it, but I felt her arm reaching towards me from across the room. I'm like, and then it's like the floors upstairs are all wood, and we heard something running around the floor, like playing, and it's like, okay, we're not going up there to check what that is. We're out of here.
You could tell it's an animal though, because I could hear like the claws like rubbing up against like the floor.
So there are reports of a ghost cat there. So I'm pretty sure it's a cat, but I wasn't about to go up there and check. So
And it's like with
Right.
having cats, it's like you can like hear the claws like against the floor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the first time, yeah, me and Laurel, one of the other guys on the team, yeah, we were there investigating, and we actually seen the cat. But it was a full-on rain thunderstorm that night, and yeah, it made it interesting. Yeah, they left to go to the campground. That's in town about 2 o'clock in the morning, and me and Macy stayed and slept the rest of the night there. So, yeah, it's an interesting place.
I just lost my. Oh, and then like the next day or a couple days later, I talked to Tina and Marcus. They said they never heard anything.
Oh, wow.
And they were
Yeah.
upstairs.
And they were upstairs in the one bedroom, but yeah, they never heard anything.
Yeah, that used to happen at my old house and stuff too, or I would see like orbs floating around like in the woods and stuff, and other people that were there didn't see them, or like I could hear voices and the person next to me didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I always
yeah,
find that interesting when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's like there's certain stuff in the spiritual world that is meant for a person. I guess
Mhm.
not meant for everybody. It's meant for the person that hears it or sees it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll have a fun time that night too.
Yeah, I've never really spent the night at like a haunted location since I left that property.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm like, this is gonna be interesting, and I'm sure my I'll have a better handle on my gifts by October, because like they've been knocking me on my ass every now and then, like at Broadhead Manor in July. Um, I don't know like what happened. I just got like my pulse was really fast. I was sweating. I was like nauseous, but like, and then my head felt weird. It was weird. And I'm just like, I don't feel so good. And my friend that was with me, she was like, you don't look good. And I went over to my friend that like was hosting the event because she's a psychic. And I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I don't know why. Like, is there anything you could think of? Like, I'm wearing my black tourmaline and my two blessed metals. Like, why am I getting affected right now? And it was pretty much like new psychic in the area, like bombard her pretty much. So she taught me something to um like clear out the extra energy in my body. So I did that. And then my one friend, he can be kind of like mm, I don't want to say an energy sucker because he's not, but like he can take the extra paranormal or EMF energy from you and put it back like into the ether or whatever. So he put his hands like on my head and everything, and then I could feel it being pulled out of me, and I was like, "Oh, wow, I feel a lot better." So that happened to me at Broadhead, and then at the Great Lakes Paranormal Conference in September last year. Same thing. It was just like, oh, I'm like really, really dizzy. Like I walked in this one area and it felt like I got spun like a top. Um, the first time that ever happened was at the Lizzie Borden house.
Wow.
We went to the third floor and I felt like somebody just spun me in a circle. I was like, oh shit. And I had to like sit on one of the couches for a few minutes. That place affected Steve too. He said that he didn't feel right.
Hmm. So for when you're at Broadhead this year for Paranormal Rockdown, are you just there on the Saturday, or are you going to be there Friday and Sunday as well?
Haven't figured that out yet. Depends on like funds and hotel and stuff like that. Because I also I just had to use like 3 PTO days for my stepdad's open heart surgery like last week.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends considering I'm taking 4 days in June for Waverly. So I might just be there that Saturday, especially because I can't set up Friday night.
Okay.
So I'll probably be there Saturday, and I don't know if I'm gonna stay or not. It kind of just depends on how I feel.
So do you think, like, during the day when you're speaking, is that going to kind of anything that happened to you last time gonna, play a factor into this time around?
I don't think so because I kind of have a better handle on what to expect because I'd never been there before. I didn't know the history of the place either.
Okay.
Um, and it turns out, I guess one of the principals or something there, he affects women a lot. Like he
Uh,
makes them feel like how I felt it is how he makes women feel. So I was like, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. I didn't know that. So how I was feeling, I explained it to my two friends, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's common." I'm like, "What?" And especially being like a psychic and stuff, it like really
Yeah.
affected me.
Yeah, that's good to know because we're going to be doing an investigation there in September. And so, like, our team, besides Chad, Laurel, and I, is all women. So you guys could be in for a long night.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
Oh, we're not sorry in any way, shape, or form.
And kind of working on we got probably a couple other people that will be joining us there and might have a special guest. I don't know if I mentioned it to you or not,
I don't think you did.
but I'll leave that one a secret for now.
No.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why?
Because I don't like secrets.
Because you've talked about it now.
Yeah.
Well, I
Right.
don't want to get your hopes up.
Okay, well now you have to tell me.
Think about it. You can pay me.
No.
So, besides the 2 investigations this year and Paranormal Rockdown, what else do you have on tap for this year?
Um, well, there's the expo in May that I'm vending at, and like when I vend, I do Reiki sound treatments. That's what I do at events, which several people that have booked me have said that they a lot of the times Reiki people don't do paranormal events, I guess, because they quote don't like the energy, which I'm like, that's weird, but okay. So I'm now known as like, the paranormal Reiki master. So I'm like, that's cool. So May 9th, 10th, and 11th is I believe it's Appleton, Wisconsin. It's
Okay.
a cryptid
Yep.
Oh,
event.
yep. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be at that one. I know Friday's like the Sasquatch hunt or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, unless what was at the property was Sasquatch, I've never had an experience um with Sasquatch, so that would be cool. So I think I'm gonna do Friday and then do the expo Saturday and then probably head home after the expo Saturday. And then June 7th, I have the Paranormal Expo in Countryside, Illinois. Jack's been doing it for a couple years now, so I'm gonna be vending at that. And then there's Paranormal Rockdown, July 19th, 18th, 19th. And then I'm trying to think. I'd like to do the Great Lakes Paranormal event again in September. It's like the 11th, 12th, 11th to
Yeah, I
the
think
14th.
something
It's
like that.
in
I'll be there doing photography. I
Okay.
can't remember
Yeah,
what the dates are
it was a
though.
lot of it was cool last year. Then getting to meet so many people was so awesome. I got to give Cindy Kaza Reiki and stuff, so that was cool. So I would like to do that one as well. So not as crazy as last year because last year I had so many events that I was doing.
Yeah.
But also got to think about my PTO and all that stuff as well because you got bills to pay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Gets in the way.
hmm
Paying those bills.
I'm hoping that after I write my book, I'll be able to get like, a little bit more income and everything. I can afford to, miss a few days more work to
Yeah.
do this stuff because this is my passion.
And I besides Waverly, I think I know what the funnest event of the year is going to be.
What's that?
Dinner with us on April 18th.
I know. I was looking at different restaurants today because of the crap that's been going on the past 2 weeks. I completely forgot. I'm like, oh, I gotta find us a place to go eat. That's not seafood. So I'm gonna look for this weekend. I'll probably have something by Sunday.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to getting down to Chicago again. We love it. And we're going
Yeah, I
to
see your little sign back there.
Oh, yep, I got that back. I don't know. I've been to Chicago probably over 100 times. But we're going to be down there, what, April 17th for who are they again? What are they called? What?
Oh, I'm too tired.
Well, I don't know. Some YouTuber she follows, and then just go explore the city and then head back on the 19th. Gonna do a couple hour tour of Joliet before we head back. And,
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah. Which that place is really active. It's really cool.
I wish the overnights there weren't so insanely expensive.
Yeah, they're under new management, unfortunately.
Yeah, you get like 5 hours and it's like $5,000.
Holy Jesus.
And then any hour extra is like another $1,500. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can
Oh
afford
my
that.
God.
That's
Wow.
insane.
If I ever won the Powerball, maybe, but
Well, I mean, if you had 20 people or so to go on to get an investigation and spread out through the whole thing, then it would, might be a decent thing then.
Right.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I'll be satisfied with a couple hours in there.
Yeah.
But like the thing I kind of looked into, you cannot film on the property unless you have a permit through the city of Joliet.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just like, okay, let's
Wow.
kind of go through and take pictures and
Yeah.
see what we get on camera.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, new management or like the guy that owned like a lot of shit happened not long, like two weeks after I was there, and it was my first time there. So it's like, damn, that like ruined that place for me. Like it was drama filled bullcrap pretty much. And the guy is kind of a piece of shit, honestly. Like Dave Schrader actually made a public kind of thing about what happened because he there were people that have been there for a very, very, very long time that were volunteering and doing the tours. He pretty
Mhm.
much fired all of them for something said on Facebook.
Kind of sounds like another location out east of stuff that's going on.
Oh, the Conjuring House?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I seen some of that drama that was happening, and now I guess the new owners aren't doing paranormal things there or something like that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the Conjuring House right now is kind of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
hmm Never been there. Always wanted to go. Like that's
Yeah.
I'm not really into like quote horror movies, but those movies, I love those movies because I've followed Ed and Lorraine Warren for a long time. I have a lot of their books.
Number 4 is coming out pretty quick.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
Same here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the
Oh
one
wow, it's
last,
8:20.
what's that?
I said, wow, it's 8:20 by
Yep.
me.
So the one last thing we do here on our podcast is give you a few seconds to put your socials out there where people can find you.
Okay. Well, pretty much the only thing that I keep up with is Facebook. You just type in my name, Jessiy Hawthorne, and I'll pop up. I got this background actually behind me, so it should be easy to find. It's also, like a public account and everything too. So, if you want to schedule me for like sound baths or Reiki, get in touch with me there. And then I do have an email. Totally tumbled crystals at gmail.com. That was pretty much going to be the name of my business, but then I kind of got into the paranormal stuff a little bit more. So I'm like, okay, we're going to go down this route. And like the universe has literally been shoving me down this route
Mm.
All
since I
right.
started opening up about it. So,
All right. Sounds good. It was
Yeah.
great to finally chat to you in person, or kind of in person.
yeah, right?
Face to
And
face, anyways.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Get
thanks
to
for
get
being
to
on
meet
tonight.
you next month. So,
Yes, yeah, that's coming up real quick. All right. Well,
for
thanks
sure.
for being on tonight, and we will stay in touch.
Yeah,
Have a
for
good
sure. Thanks for
weekend.
having me.
Yep. All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been Nightmare Stories of the Other Side, a production of Nightmare Explorers.